What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Marvel's Daredevil Born Again Season 1, out in full on Disney+. We know Daredevil Born Again will be back for a second season and was envisioned as an 18-episode season, so this conclusion of Season 1, this Season 1 finale, is very much acting as a middle point. I was not particularly impressed with Daredevil Born Again, but Season 1 did improve as it went on. The show got more consistent with its priorities, and I think the conflicting creative visions will hopefully cease with Season 2. As the season progressed, Mayor Fisk's descent back into Kingpin, now in full control of New York, was done pretty well. As a villain, the character is certainly working. They tease you with just enough Punisher in this season. But Heather was certainly the weakest love interest that Matt has had throughout the run of Daredevil. A choppy season, but I think thematically it really started to focus by the end, and I think Season 2 has a good opportunity, and that's not something we said about a lot of MCU Disney Plus series lately, so I guess we'll take it even if that's inherently a low bar. It's really a shame that the Matt Heather stuff just doesn't work at all. I really enjoy Margarita LaViva. I thought she was tremendous on HBO's The Deuce after several seasons. Of course, she got to play like a real character with substance and an actual arc on that show. Heather Glenn on Daredevil Born Again barely has any purpose on the show, and it's like one of those unfortunate things where that character is like so like at odds with Matt Murdock, and they don't have any chemistry at all. And the lack of communication, the fact that she doesn't know Matt's identity, just makes for this conflict that's just not enjoyable to sit with as a viewer. And yeah, it's just pretty frustrating as that character dynamic just spins its wheels over the course of the season. I thought everything with the villain Muse really sucked, to be honest. Like that was a character that was introduced like so quickly and then also resolved so quickly, and because the connection to Matt truly was like Heather, it just doesn't hit as well as you want it to hit because you're not as invested in that relationship already. So that stuff just doesn't really work to me. John Bernthal is back as the Punisher, really just in 2 episodes. One in the beginning, episode 3 or 4, and then in the finale when you actually get to see him be the Punisher and crack some skulls. And I think it makes sense the way they brought him back. Obviously, John Bernthal in the role makes a lot of sense to keep that star power, bring that into the MCU proper, like the rest of this Daredevil universe, as it began on Netflix. But the introduction of, Fisk's vigilante task force and his increasing corruption and subversion of the law, obviously that's in direct conflict with the Punisher because all those guys are using the Punisher as inspiration, have his symbol as a tattoo and stuff, even though it doesn't actually support his values and ideals as the most violent vigilante of them all. So I think that made a good amount of sense. Is it a bit annoying that he got himself captured at the end in kind of a dumb way? Sure, but we know he's going to break out, and we know they're going to do that special presentation around the Punisher, which I think is going to be very exciting, and I'm super looking forward to that for sure. I'll say I actually enjoyed the like lawyering procedural stuff in the beginning of the season. That's clearly like where the creative conflict was with this show, where it was originally envisioned as much less of a Daredevil show and much more of a Matt Murdock show. In the beginning, you get stuff with the firm and his colleagues, and also the White Tiger stuff. And obviously, the White Tiger still gets the short shrift as a character, getting off the way he does. But I kind of enjoyed like that early stuff, especially as it relates to the Matt's growing beef with the vigilantes when they're less formalized and more so just crooked cops and whatnot. Also get that dynamic with the police commissioner who doesn't agree with Wilson Fisk as he struggles to keep hold of the situation. And the show also gives us that one-off episode with the bank robbery, which, I mean, to some people, yeah, that's like a filler episode, but to me, that's kind of like, that's what TV is supposed to be about, is like stuff like that's not purely serialized. And you get that fun cameo with Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel's dad, as one of the bankers in the episode. So like solid, kind of fun, I guess, for what it was. I didn't mind it. I also thought Michael Gandolfini as Daniel, one of Fisk's cronies, was really good. Honestly, Daniel's really willingness to bend the rules and suck up to Fisk and do his bidding basically and how he relates to his friend in quotes, BB Urich, the young journalist. Some good stuff there, and then you have Sheila, who's the more seasoned political operator, also working under Fisk's thumb, and you always feel like she's just about to get Fisk's ire, and then at the very end, she betrays the police commissioner. Some good stuff, I just think like it was just kind of messy, and season two, I think, sets us up in an interesting place in terms of, all hope seems lost, martial law declared on the city, open, corruption here and there. The vigilantes are running the asylum, all that kind of stuff. And one thing, I guess, this is taking place in the MCU. Like, surely this kind of stuff would attract the attention of other heroes in the universe. Yes. I'm not sure if that's ever really going to manifest. Like, would season two bring in Miss Marvel? She's fucking in Jersey, technically, right? But Miss Marvel would make quick work of Kingpin, if she wanted to. Obviously, this is a common thing with comic storytelling, whether it's on the page or on screen, that you kind of have to just let that kind of stuff uh, lie where it may. It's not really worth dissecting those plot holes, so I'm not really too worked up about it. But Bernthal's Punisher, Cox's Daredevil, fun portrayals. I enjoy the presence. We got Karen coming back at the very end after not being in the season at all. Maybe she'll be in Born Again season 2 a lot more. Obviously, Foggy's gone, so we'll see. Bullseye, for that matter, still at large. I thought they were kind of offing him in the beginning of the season, but now he's still technically around, I guess. But yeah, Born Again season 1, okay. It turns out they're filming season 2 right now. It's just so funny, like how this show, where it started, they're gonna film the whole thing back to back, and then the creative problems derailed it to such a degree that they're just now starting season 2. But there's also hope in that regard because season 2 will have a traditional showrunner from the start. Again, Marvel finally creating TV in the normal way, which is not what they had been doing all this time until very recently. So optimistic, I guess, but we'll see. I think on one hand too, like the success or failure of Daredevil Born Again as a proposition. Also, I feel like you don't give the MCU total credit for this. It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 being successful recently. We're like, oh, well, that doesn't mean the MCU is back because that's like a legacy thing. That's like a James Gunn thing, right? Daredevil, that's kind of a legacy thing. Deadpool and Wolverine, bringing back all the Fox people, definitely a legacy thing, right? So this is still kind of existing in like a pseudo proto like nostalgia frame, given how old these portrayals are. So all that's to say, I'm optimistic, but it's best not to read too much into what Daredevil ends up accomplishing at the end of the day. But yeah, let me know, what you think of Daredevil Born Again? I was both unimpressed and also entertained at the same time in a weird way. So let me know, how did you feel about this season? Do you agree that it ended better than it started? Let me know. And for more TV reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time.